Well, hello model car fans. Welcome to the Muscle Car Modeler. My name is Raul, and I was recently asked a question that really spawned some thought on my part and decided I would do a video on it. The question I was asked was, what do I look for in a rebuilder? That's kind of a hard question, and it has a lot to do with what you're looking for and what your goals are with the model after you get your hands on it, or what's the final vision in your head. How do you want the model to look? And for me, it's usually a stock one, and I want it to be as stock as possible, especially when it's a pretty rare car. Sometimes that's a double-edged sword for me, because sometimes I want to make it better and have the vintage body but the modern chassis from a much better kit with better detail. I've done a number of those. Other times I just want to keep the character of the original kit intact and leave it stone stock as it was issued back in its original glory. It's kind of a tough one, but for me, having the body as complete as possible, all the emblems on it, and as many of the stock parts as possible. And that has gotten a bit harder too, because getting some of these kits and getting parts for them can be an issue. The internet has helped greatly in that. The internet has made it a lot easier for me to find these kits, connect with people that have the kits, or parts cars or parts kits or what have you there. And like most of these, all of these were bought online. Some were eBay, some were through Facebook, through friends. Some just flat out saying, hey, I'm looking for one of these just to see what's out there. And some come my way that way. But in the early days of eBay, it's just, you didn't get a whole lot of vintage ones when they popped up. They were definitely rebuilders, some great, some not so good. You can choose from there. But there was a couple of factors that were an issue. One was if the parts were available. So like getting parts from Model Haas to get some of the missing parts, like for the MPC GTOs, usually the seats. That one has its seats. I had another one that didn't have the seats, the front seats. A lot of them had custom seats. Getting the stock wheels. Taillights is usually a big one because they're glued in and sometimes trashed. Some of those are issues. And with Model Haas, getting those parts was easy if they offered them. But now that they've been gone for a while now, so my choices have gotten a much pickier on eBay now, or what's out there as far as. But thankfully, I've gathered up a lot of them, and I've got all the parts to build a ton of them. So, like all of these, I've gathered up. Some of them are very complete and just need to be done. Others, there's just a couple of pieces here or there and things that go along with it, and just clear vision. This is my Olds 442. This is a 71. It's a Johan kit, and this thing was in very nice shape. All the emblems are there. There's no custom stuff done to it. Has the hood that came with it. It's been painted, but nothing's been sanded on. It's all there. The biggest issue this one had was somebody had really cut out the engine here and all of the framework, the exhaust here, and I don't know why, but I ended up sourcing another chassis, which is what this one is. Here's another chassis so you can see what was cut out and what wasn't. So here I had found another chassis to put back into it. And then along with it, this one had the metal axles, which I probably swapped those out, but this one had the later inserts with the plastic axles, which I had gotten all those parts as well. That's this bag here. So those were provided from a friend helping me out, and some of the parts here and the taillights. But that one will be done and restored. I haven't picked a color or anything, but I'm kind of itching to get that one going because Revell announced that they're coming out with a 71 Olds 442. So that kit's coming. This is another one. This is an MPC 71 Hemi Cuda. Body's all there. It was broken here, but all the emblems are there, and it was stripped at one time. And this one I don't believe I stripped. I think it was stripped by somebody else. And no chassis, so I used the snap-tight chassis. Just got one of those to drop in there. Could find another chassis if I wanted to, but that's the chassis I have with it. And then in the bag, some of the hard to find parts. There's the front and rear bumpers. They have not been chromed. And the grill, here's the hood, the taillights, and then the dash and seats and all the parts I need to build it. So it's all pretty much here, and this one could be a simple build, and I can glue the shaker to the bottom of the hood. I haven't decided how I'm going to approach that one yet. This is one of my grails. Well, pretty much all of these are grails, but here's a MPC 69 GTO convertible, and I got a hardtop and a convertible. This one was stripped, but there's no sand marks. The emblems are there. All the stuff's there. Nothing's heavily glued, and it's all in really nice shape. The chassis is in great shape, and this is not glued. It's just in place, and interior's there. But the drawback with this one is this windshield pillar has been broken a couple of times because it's been glued and rebroke. So I already know I'm going to have to pin that and be very careful with that. And then here's all the other parts for it, but it's got the stock seats, the stock wheels. I think most of them, I think I might be missing one wheel. Got all the chrome. There's a convertible boot, which that's one of the hard things to find on this particular one, is getting that boot. It's got the not so good engine, and I think I see 3 wheels there. 1, 2. The wheels are kind of rough, but finding wheels for this is not a problem. There are plenty of kits to get them from. Here's another GTO. This is an MPC 66 GTO, and same kind of thing. This one, the body was never painted. It's got glue sink marks here and there, and all the things are there. This is falling off. But the biggest drawbacks with this one, there's the tri-power engine, and but the windshield is glued in, and seriously glued in. You can see the plastic seeping out, and it's pretty bad on the inside. But this side's pretty solid. All the stuff's there, the tail panel and all the tail lights. There's no separate lenses on this one. All the parts are here. It's just this windshield frame, same thing. It's broken. Need to repair that, and then there's a missing chunk right there, which the piece I actually have. It's in one of these bags. Actually, it's in this one, as you can see. It's right there. The grills were shot. One of them shattered coming out. The other one came out decent, but and I had the bumpers re-chromed. One of the hood pins is broken. I'm probably not going to worry about that. But here's the rear bumper that's been re-chromed, the front bumper that's been re-chromed, a set of 4 wheels from another kit, and then here's the grill inserts that I had cast and made new ones from a friend of mine. Loaned me a set of Model House ones that he had, and I made a mold of it and made myself a couple of sets there so that I can complete this one. That was the major component that I was missing on there. And having friends that can help you with that kind of stuff is really cool. And then like this Javelin, this is one that I probably should not have bought. It's not really bad, but here's pieces of the hood right here. There's the front of the hood, then the sides of the hood, but the hood was glued in place, as you can see here, and cut out for the big blower. And then the engine was glued in poorly, and the chassis was heavily modified to give it the stance it wanted, exhaust cut off. So, you know, this chassis kind of would have to replace it. It could be reused, but if I wanted to build it stock, would find another one, or probably save it as much as possible. It also had some bars here that I took off. They're in the parts stuff that piled up for it. But it's kind of ridiculous, but at the same time it's got some charm. The pluses for this one, this body, it has all of the emblems. The Javelin emblem here, 390, the SST, the marker lights, they're all there. The rear wheel wells are not cut out. The first one I had was seriously cut out and it was trashed. And the glass on this one is actually pretty good. And then I polished the paint here just to see if I could. I just had some fun with it. But this one, it can be stripped. And I really don't have any bumpers. Well, I do and I don't. So, but most of the stuff on this, it's got the entire 69 interior, other than that gauge pack glued in there and that steering column, but the dash is there. So all that's missing in the interior is a steering wheel and a shifter. The engine's missing. The tail light is actually missing, but getting the more common 69 AMX for parts has the same steering wheel, the same engine, and you can use its wheels if you don't want to use these. It's pretty much the same wheels are interchangeable. And then the taillights that go in it, they say AMX instead of Javelin, but this one I had to cast a hood and cast a rear bumper. So there's a bumper that says Javelin, another bumper says Javelin. These are resin copies that were gonna go with it, but that one required a bit of work, and I ended up jumping on that one, and eventually I had bought another one to rebuild that's in much better shape. So I've got a number of those now, and this is another one that's kind of along that category but didn't have any of these. This is an MPC 69 Coronet RT rebuilder, and this thing's really nice, and I had to look this one over carefully because at first I thought it was a hardtop that was cut into a convertible, but that's the original convertible boot, and under it is the way it's molded is all original, so it's a convertible. But the windshield frame was broke at some time because this windshield frame is glued back in, and it's all cut out here. There's no sun visors, and the windshield's put in there, and it was done fairly well. So whoever did this should be pretty proud of themselves. It's a pretty good job. And then all I really do is clean it up, and I can just add sun visors to it. Paint's kind of heavy. You can see some bubbling right there, and some more right here where the paint was sprayed on. So it's going to need to be stripped and cleaned up. The taillights came out of it, and it doesn't have the stock wheels. It's got these custom wheels on it, which I think I'm fine with. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. But the hood's here, the entire engine compartment. But being that AMT just announced that they're retooling and going to re-release the 68 convertible, now I might be able to get the whole windshield frame from that. But my original plan was to use the convertible windshield frame from the 69 GTX convertible, which is different tooling, but it should be able to get that windshield and stuff to fit. Now some of the other stuff with this was, here's the molded in exhaust, but somebody had put these exhaust tips on there to really give it the big pipes, and they're falling off. It's almost like it's straws, but they didn't glue in very well. I got the engine and all the parts here, and it came with the Hillborn injection, and here's the firewall, headers, a bunch of the custom stuff, but not a lot of the stock stuff. But on my other ones that I built like this that were resin ones, I'd swapped in that AMT chassis anyway. So finding a 69 convertible in my stash, I have one, at least one. I think I have two. But use the entire engine compartment and chassis and the windshield frame on that, and keep all of the interior and body, and this will become a very nice kit. And it's got the stock bumpers and grille, which are in here. They had already been re-chromed. A lot of these that are wrapped in tissue paper have already been re-chromed. But that's what I look for when I'm looking for rebuilders and I'm looking for a challenge. Collect and look for these, and sometimes I'll have a specific one in mind, but I'm usually not in heat to get one. I'll keep my eye open, put the word out to some of my friends that, hey, I'm looking for one of these, and if you got one, great, we can talk, and one pops up on eBay, sometimes I'll go for it, but not so much nowadays since I've got so many and plenty of them to do, and I just really need to get to a lot of these and get an idea of what I want to do with a lot of these rebuilders. So that's what I look for, and some of my recommendations. And price is a big factor. Sometimes looking for some of these, they can get pretty expensive, but when you start looking for parts and you're buying a little bit of parts, or even if you need to buy the resin hood for $10 and another resin front bumper for another $10 or more. When Model House was in there, it was easy for me to drop another $30, $40 in resin parts to restore one of these, and then you buy the the rebuilder for $50, $60, sometimes $100. You get all the parts and the donor kit, and you start to realize you're close to $200 sometimes, and buying the unbuilt vintage kit for $150, which you didn't want to spend that money, and then come to realize you've spent that on a rebuilder that needs more work than finding that vintage kit. So I've crossed that path a couple of times, and the Javelin is a perfect example of that, where an original kit $300-$400 now, but even that can be $100-$150 just for that, and then you still got to find other parts, and then you can find a bumper for $25 for one bumper. I did that with a 70 Javelin rear bumper. I broke mine, found another one on eBay, paid $25 for it plus shipping, then got it chromed and broke it again because they're so brittle. So and that was just a rear bumper. So I was like, all right, wow, some of these Javelins really hurt me financially, but I don't do it for the money sometimes. Sometimes it's just I want to get the things done. And when you're that far and you've got that one last piece, sometimes spending the extra money, it's easy to justify. But in the long run, you start to think about it, some of these vintage kits, it's better to buy a whole unbuilt kit and build that. And then sometimes you can do that, buy the kit, sell the custom parts or the extra parts that you didn't use, and sell the box and get some of that money back. It's kind of funny, but I've done that as well. Kind of don't recommend it, but if you're there and you can do that, go for it. It's really not that bad of a deal. It's kind of funny. One of mine's a 68 Javelin that was that way. Bought the kit for $100. This was a while ago, so they'd sell for way more than that, but turned around and sold all the drag parts for like $40 and then sold the box for another $20. So there I only had $40 left in the Javelin kit after I bought it. But that was well over 10 years ago, so you can't buy a 68 Javelin kit for $100 like you could. That was probably more like 15 years ago. But anyway, times have changed, availability of parts has really changed, so those are all issues, and this stuff just keeps going up. But when I look for a rebuilder, those are the things I look for, and I don't look as much as I used to. I gotta say, just be patient. Sooner or later, if you got a specific one in mind, the right one will come around. But just tell people, say, hey, I'm looking for this. All of us modelers, we've all got some pretty good stashes, and sometimes we've got extras and we may let them go, or no, we may not get to that kit someday and may just cash out. Bought it years ago for cheap and may make you a deal. And I'm not saying I'm going to sell any of these. That's not what I'm talking about. I have a hard time letting go, of course, but that's part of the game here. But really enjoy them, and even like this, just like looking at them and thinking about the possibilities and potential that I have in these kits. But thank you for tuning in, subscribing, and all your comments. I really appreciate it. And that comment that really spawned this video right here, just one, show off some of this stuff, and two, just share my experience and some tips maybe on what to look for and what specifically I look for. But it all comes down to, what do you want to build, and is there a specific reason you're looking for that specific kit, or is there just something in general you're looking for, and you're pretty wide open. For me, it started with the old T-Birds, trying to find the old T-Birds and get some of those kits. That's where a lot of my restoration skills started from, was doing those and not really getting into the vintage muscle cars like I had, but originally wasn't too concerned about those because there was at least one of each body style available in modern kit. But thanks for tuning in, subscribing, and all your comments. I really appreciate it. And you guys, you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next Saturday.